Mommy
Shark.
shark doot 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 doot. Mommy shark doot doot doot. Exactly. All right. Good morning. It's Tuesday, June 9th on the morning brushback. I'm Dan Blewett, and I hope that I've embedded the baby shark song deep within your skull. Bobby, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm not happy with you this morning.
It's the most infectious little ditty that's ever been dittied. Like I said, I caught it from an Instagram post yesterday. I was just like scrolling through the feed, and which I've been very, very off of Instagram, which is great because I just hate the platform. But I was advertising my little debate on it, so I was scanning through it. I probably spent only like 5 minutes on Instagram in the last week or two. It's been wonderful. You should cut ties with Instagram. It's the worst. Provides no
It's
benefit to your life.
it's hard. It's hard to cut ties when you got a youth baseball program. The kids are literally only use Instagram. That's the only thing they know how to use.
It's sad. It's the worst platform. I
I did see you on
just
Instagram
just
couple
just despise it.
stories. Like you just decided a couple stories. I thought you disconnected, and here you are, just
Well, I advertised the
Instagram.
article. I advertised the article I wrote because I do realize that reaches some people on Instagram, and I advertised the debate that I was in yesterday. So that was the only real reason.
So
But
there's
I
a
don't keep it on
couple.
my phone. I keep it on my iPad, and I don't take my iPad with me. So it's like not. And for whatever reason, I don't feel compelled to like scroll through my iPad. I find it an uncomfortable device. So I don't. My habits with my iPad are different than my phone, which is interesting.
Yeah, because the iPad's a two-handed. It's a two-handed instrument.
It is. It's annoying. You try to use it as a phone, you're like, oh, this
No,
sucks.
you can't
And
do it.
then, yeah, I had this iPad Pro that I actually used a fair amount when I had a keyboard for it. And then, or actually, this was a different iPad Pro, and then I sold that one with the keyboard. It was actually really convenient with the keyboard and the little Apple Pencil, which I still have, but I just don't need my iPad very much. So anyway,
Typing on an iPad screen is like the equivalent of dropping your phone between the seats and trying to get it with your like the two fingers. It's so brutal.
it really
It's
does suck. It really does
it's
suck. Yeah.
it's not fast. I'm surprised the keyboard hasn't taken off more for the iPad.
The keyboard's great. I loved my little iPad. It was like a one little fold together, unfold it, whatever, and then
Yeah, it
you've
protects
got
it.
the. It was very convenient. I enjoyed it, but it just wasn't a major part of my workflow after I stopped doing certain like graphic design things on it. I didn't really have a need for it. So and then you're like, well, I have this $400 device I could resell, so I just got rid of it.
Remind me again, are you a Mac or a PC guy?
I'm a PC guy now. I still have my old MacBook Pro. I only use it to write with because there's a program on it called Scrivener, which is a word processor for authors. Essentially, it's like very. No one's ever heard of it. It's one of those things that it's like one of these cult items, kind of like Lululemon was back in the day. Remember when Lululemon wasn't big for guys,
Was never. It was
and
years ago.
you
Yeah.
had to have someone tell you about Lululemon clothing for men, but they'd be like, dude, these are the best pants. Like, you've got to try it. So then you tried it. That's how Scrivener is this program. And it's so much better than Microsoft Word. It's like unbelievable. But I mean, there's so many. So I wrote my last book in it. I'm writing my next book in it. But basically, you can, instead of writing in just one huge page, which is what Word does, and Word sucks, you can make a different sub document for every chapter, which
Hmm.
makes it so much easier just to be on, you flip from one to the next and stay. And then at the very end of the document, you just hit compile and it just like boop, mushes them all together into one formatted book. And you can just export right to Kindle or right to paperback format. It's super powerful. You can tag characters in it. So you could click like, hey, where is Bobby in my book? And it'll like say, oh, he's on page 97, 78, 144. You can like tag people. You can like follow the flow of characters. It gives you lots of really crazy tools to piece together these stories, because it really is hard to keep on top of your book and know, did I tell that story already, or did I explain that thing about this one character? Have I like there's a lots of stuff that you have to figure out. Like, have you described all your characters? Like, where your character is going, who are they connected to, all these different plot lines. It's a really interesting piece of software. So if you're a writer out there, Scrivener is great. Just Google it. Anyway.
So you don't like PC?
Well, so that was the reason I was talking about that. So my big thing was I do a lot of video editing, and my MacBook Pro, which is like a $1,300 entry level MacBook Pro, which is obviously a good computer for almost everyone. It just couldn't hack the video processing that I do on a daily basis, working with like 4K footage and export times. Basically, I could edit a video, it'd get really slow and laggy and choppy. Then when I'd export it, it would take like 50 minutes, and my whole computer would be like brain dead while I was exporting. It just takes so much processing power to export a 4K video that it's like I just can't. This like doesn't make sense for my life. So I had to upgrade to a pretty like serious computer, and this is where Apple starts to really suck because the specs. So I have like a $2,000 Lenovo ThinkPad. It's a really nice computer. I got it over in November. And the same specs, like the amount of RAM, because I have 32 gigabytes of RAM in this, a terabyte solid state drive. It's got a 4K screen. It's 15 inches. It's a really nice Lenovo. It was about $2,000, and that same computer with the same exact specs from Apple is like $3,600. And you just at that point you're just like, why am I gonna pay double? Like, what's the real benefit, Apple? It's not like your computer has a better screen. Like, they have some better features, like physically, but at that point you just have to really say, do I really need it to be a Mac? And the answer was no. And I've been perfectly happy. This isn't like 2005 where Windows was like the worst operating program you ever saw. It's pretty easy, and most stuff that you use on a daily basis are cloud based. You know, they're in the browser. Like, all my Adobe apps are almost identical. They're not much different than the Mac apps. You browse on the internet, it's the same thing, obviously. The settings take some getting used to, but you figure it all out. And I've honestly had no problem. I was a Mac user since I was 14, and I just switched in November. Hasn't been that big a deal. So that's my story.
Well, let's stay on the intellectual stuff, because those of you watching know that Dan was on the Expert Summit debate forum. I'm actually on their Twitter page right now, and I noticed one of my former teammates, Dan Hennigan, shout out to Dan.
Yep, he said to say hello. Yep.
Yeah, was he the moderator?
No, he's been more like the behind the scenes. He's been helping them like get the website and doing a lot of the tech stuff. And he's been helping a lot of us. He's been integral in the process, but he's not like the front man.
Dan, great guy, former Somerset Patriot. But so our own Dan Blewett went on there and by all accounts absolutely destroyed his competition, if I do say so, paraphrasing their tweet, not mine. But Dan, how did that go yesterday?
Yeah, I guess that's accurate. Everyone that knew me that was watching it basically said the same thing. They're like, well, yeah, you obviously won by a lot. I don't know. So the questions were, the first one was, what's really important about strength training? Should pitchers, or which is more important? Should pitchers be trying to get as strong as possible, or should they be doing more like pitcher specific kind of exercises? So we talked a lot about strength training in general and how pitchers are athletes first. And I talked about how you need to sort of prioritize and fill different buckets. So if you're already pretty big and strong, then you can start to do more power training and all this other stuff. But basically just my overall point was, here are a bunch of things that you should actually be doing in the real world if you're a coach or player listening to this debate right now. These are actually things that you should be thinking about as a parent and as an athlete. And most kids just need to continue to get bigger and stronger for a long time, right? The question of like, should you just try to get as big as possible? The answer is like 100% yes, until you're like actually like a fully built dude. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree. You probably, if you're a youth player, you're probably not nearly as big as you need to be.
Yeah, no one is.
I mean, big has a couple different contexts, obviously, but you're usually undersized as a high school or even pre-high school athlete. So yes, gain weight, get stronger. Those are very good tips for a youth player.
Well, yeah, for sure. And it comes back to like the periodization model. So periodization, for those of you listening, is sort of the way you program out. So you do it in different periods, periodization. So typically the linear periodization model is you sort of get in shape first, your general preparedness. So like you do lots of different stuff to get your whole body sort of in shape. Then you start to lift for muscle size, which is hypertrophy. So that's like 3 sets of 12. That stuff builds your size more. Then when you start to get a little bigger, you switch to power, which is like 5 sets of 5 sets of 3, heavier weights that make you stronger, but often don't have the same effect of building your muscle size as big. So bodybuilders stay in the hypertrophy rep range much more, like most of their life, because they're trying to get bigger muscles. Whereas powerlifters stay in the power rep range a lot more. And you can like float between the two, but in general, that's the way linear periodization goes. You get into shape, you get bigger, you get stronger, and then you get more explosive. So at the very end, like preseason, you would go to like a speed phase. And so you're trying to apply the power that the strength that you've built as fast as you can. So that's like the standard, but that's not really what you'd want to do for a high school athlete who just needs to get bigger. He might stay in the hypertrophy phase for the most part for like 4 years. And you'd undulate the reps a little bit. He might not be doing 3x10 every week. It might be like 4 sets of 10 or 4 sets of 12, then 5 sets of 8 one week. And you're going to switch exercises. You're going to do lots of other things to continue to stimulate growth, because you can't just stagnate, do the same workout for 4 years in a row, obviously.
Right.
But most kids are, if you need hypertrophy, there's no good reason that we're going to have you jumping around doing plyometrics all the time when you're 140 pounds. So that was another just central point. But anyway, so the middle question in the debate was in-season versus off-season training, and how is it different? How can it complement a throwing program? And I, again, just gave a lot of tips about, in-season training is really hard for pitchers. It's super complicated because you're tired. You don't want to get fatigued. You want to keep your arm healthy. You want to stay fresh for games. But how do you do that? And so should you be doing like less weight, but still lots of reps in the weight room, which is actually counterintuitive. That's not what you want to do. You'd really rather be doing heavier lifts for shorter reps. So say it's like you could squat 300 pounds 5 times. You would take that 300 pounds in the season and do maybe 5 sets of 2 reps with it. So it's a weight you could lift 5 times, but you're only going to do it twice because it really stimulates your body. It makes it work really hard, recruiting a lot of muscle fiber because it's heavy, but you're only doing it twice when you could do 3 extra reps from that. And so then it keeps your muscle size up. It tells your body, don't start to atrophy, because we still are lifting heavy weights, but you're not going to fatigue. You're not going to exhaustion with these really heavy weights, where then you start to get tired for your game. So that's typically the way you do it. You tend to do more of that because your goal is to prevent this slow decline of your strength over the season, because it's a slow decline for everybody.
Right.
So we just went through a lot of that stuff. And then the last question was, should kids be allowed to call their own game? And I just went into super rant mode. So yeah. Which
is awesome.
Well, nothing like a good rant to bring it home,
Well, those of you that have listened to Dan rant on this podcast know that he does not want your kids getting pitch called by the coach for developmental reasons specifically, because that needs to be stressed. That needs to be stressed.
Yeah. And I still there's so many reasons. I have a long YouTube video about this. So if you want to listen to me bore you about pitch calling some more, jump on my YouTube channel. But it just makes more sense to let kids do it and just talk to them, teach the catchers, teach the pitchers, teach them what to look for, and then let them do it. Coaches aren't getting better intel from the dugout. Even if you could definitely call a better game, like I could for my 15U players. Obviously I would call a better game for them. I still don't, like, my ego doesn't need to be in that transaction. Like, who's to say that me calling a better game is going to make us win the game? You're going to win a game on so many other factors more than pitch calling.
Right.
Like, get us 6 runs. If our pitcher just doesn't walk more than 3 batters, throws strikes and competes, we'll probably win. Whether I call the pitches or a donkey calls the pitches, or we get a bingo machine and call the pitches.
Who's this donkey calling pitches?
No, a literal donkey. Like, we make some system where a donkey, just like if it eats, maybe give him 3 buckets, and on every pitch, if he eats out of this bucket, then it's a fastball. Eats out of that bucket, it's a curveball. Whatever, donkey system.
Just straight up curveball. It's a curveball game for the donkey today.
Yeah, just 11 curveballs in a row. Whatever.
So I feel very confident saying that Dan destroyed his competition, and I take a little bit of satisfaction in that because it's mainly me. Dan,
you've been honing me.
Well, yeah. Dan goes on rants minimum twice a week on the podcast, where it's poignant attacks on myself usually. So to see somebody else have to wear it I have no sympathy for you, sir.
Well, it was actually not contentious at all. It wasn't as much a debate as it was I said my thing, he said his thing. I said my thing, he said his thing. It certainly could have gotten there, but it just didn't. Like if we want to go back and forth about stuff, we could.
And you should have.
If I really wanted to attack his points, but honestly, he didn't make any strong points. He just sort of talked about the kinetic chain and his sort of stuff, and there wasn't really anything for me to like disagree with. He just stayed completely like in Iceland while I was in America. It was just like, I don't know, we weren't in the same area with what
Iceland.
we were kind of, So, but Robert, what's the deal? So we're going to talk about, if you're just joining us, hello, this is the Morning Brushback. Thank you for being here. If you have a question or a topic for us, YouTube and Twitter, Periscope are open, so feel free to leave us a chat. Also, while we're doing like our little morning announcements, we have chilled milk today. And what else do they usually say on the school stuff? Every day they said chilled milk. Why did they say chilled milk? As if we like does anyone assume that when they're selling milk, it's room temperature or that you've left it out? Like, why did they have to tell us it was chilled milk every day?
Because if anybody was up in the air, nobody wants unchilled milk. So you push it. It's like kind of how you sang Baby Shark, like you're conditioned.
Baby Shark. I'm just trying to embed it in your brain. Yeah. So chilled milk. But I have two little announcements. If you're a softball person, which is probably none of you, I have a new softball podcast called The Good Advice Softball Podcast. It's on iTunes and wherever else. I also have revived Dear Baseball Gods, not to replace the show in any way, but it's just a quick bite. So like 15 minutes is my goal or less, and it's just topical, like holding runners. Jump on there, listen to my spiel about holding runners. Then there's a little mindset segment after that, like 2-ish minutes, and then at the end is a question. So I've asked listener questions to submit to me a voice recording, and then I answer it. So
I'll bet you've got three little segments. Really good. Did you get some really good voice questions?
This guy Bob sent me a great one about curveballs, which is in episode 2. So if you want to send me a voice question, I would love to get a voice question for my other podcast. hello@danblue.com. Email me. All you do is go to the voice memos on your phone. It's very easy. I'll put you on my podcast.
Yeah,
I'm at the mercy of you people. I need more of them. I've already recorded 2 episodes of each.
Oh, don't worry.
More questions.
I will be submitting. As much as I was emotionally distraught seeing you join up 2 different podcasts, I do take a little bit of comfort that I can submit a question, and that question could be the only question you get, so you have to use it.
This is true. No, but I did this because for 2 reasons. Number one, the softball community is still completely underserved. If you go on right now, if you're out there, go to iTunes and Google just put softball into the podcast search. It's embarrassing. There's like 10 podcasts that come up. 5 of them are dormant, so they haven't released a new episode, and it's clear that show just ended. And the other ones are like, I'm sure there's a couple of good ones, so don't get me wrong. I'm not criticizing anyone, but then a lot of them are just like the worst cover art, or they're very topical. There's one about like Florida State softball, which is great, but it's not.
Go Noles.
There's a million baseball podcasts about any topic that you want. There's like 20 player development podcasts. There's all these coaches, and there's literally none of that on the softball side. It's baffling. There's one that seems one of the more popular ones. It seems like it's about softball mindset, which is great. Again, not criticizing it, but there's just like a dearth of softball content. So I'm like, screw it. I'll make a short podcast and just give out advice. I got plenty of it. Talk about the same thing. It's literally the same format as Dear Baseball Gods. So quick topic, talk through it, give you some advice, mindset thing, Q&A, and done. And I think it's valuable. So for people that want to listen to it, it's out there. But it's definitely not replacing our talk radio. Not replacing
it. You go. Well, I like the concept of like the short form, like 15 and 20 minutes, because it kind of it collects all your videos into one spot. You can search an episode, and like you said, if you have a question, you can actually get poignant feedback, as opposed to searching. My question to Dan, you guys may see, was about youth curveballs. Mm-hmm. Where I can Google curveballs and I can Google a bunch of YouTube videos about how to teach a curveball or whatever, but it's not necessarily poignant to age specific or, the amount that of stress maybe on the elbow or whatever, however Dan might answer the question. So it's a kind of a good way to get a little bit of a medium form feedback as opposed to like a quick email or a long video that might not be specific to what you're asking.
Well, and there's a baseball podcast which I am going to be critical of, which I'm not going to name, but there's one that's very short form, because I respect the guy who does it, but it's very short, like 5 to 7 minutes per episode, and it's topical, and it's just bad information. The guy just doesn't really know what he's talking about, and I'm like, okay, this is an interesting format. Like, I could scan through this, because again, it's just like questions that are like, oh, okay, what does he think about holding runners, about this, or about analytics, or about that, or about that? And then I listen to a bunch of them. I'm like, this guy just doesn't know what he's talking about. This is just junk. This is just junk advice, unfortunately. I'm like, I'm going to do this better. Sorry. So world, I'm doing it. I'm doing that better. And of course everything's been done, but it's just like, yeah, let's give you actually good information on some of these topics.
The only podcast I've heard have you ever heard Mike Rowe's podcast, The Way I Heard It?
Yeah. I think
talk about this.
Mike's great. Yeah. He's awesome.
So Mike Rowe, the dirty jobs guy, he's actually got quite a background. If you research him, he's got very interesting
really
background.
Interesting.
But he does The Way I Heard It podcast.
His little music. Yeah.
They're like 5 to 8. They're like 5 to 8 minutes long, and he gives basically like the first 4.5 minutes are the story of this person, and you're like, oh, this is a very interesting person, and he reveals who the person is, and you're like, what the? You have no idea what's, it's a little bit of a plot twist, but they're short, and they're like, you can run through them, and it's kind of like keeping music on in the background, but interesting story. That's the only podcast, point being, that I've heard that's between 5 and 10 minutes that I'm like, oh, this is interesting enough to hold me for that amount of time, and I want to listen to the next one, where it's like you said, there's bad information out there anywhere. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, for sure.
Any sports, like, you're gonna go find terrible information on YouTube, and it could be 30 seconds, it could be 3 hours. But
yeah, for sure.
Like you said, your guy's giving he's answering questions, and it's like just throwing crap against the wall, hoping somebody thinks it's worthwhile.
Yeah, no, Mike Rowe's podcast is great. He writes those stories out, so they're never more than like 10 minutes, because what is it? Typically, it's like 150 words a minute, I think, that you speak. So these are probably like 1,500 word essays that he writes, and then he reads them out. And yeah, they're clever. They're about a person, like you said. You don't really know who they're about till the end. It's a kind of plot twisty. And Mike has a great radio voice. He just has a super like deep booming voice, and he's been on TV. That's why he's like a voice actor on TV. Yeah. As much as he is in like actual shows. Like, he narrates tons of doesn't he narrate The Deadliest Catch? He narrates a ton for lots of different like Discovery type programs and stuff like that.
He definitely narrates a lot of Discovery stuff. Deadliest Catch, he does like their special shows, like if they're doing a overview of some show, he'll narrate that.
Yeah.
But he's really good. Like, the guy's got plus 30 Jobs is a great show. What a concept. Just
it was a good show.
Go swim in knee deep full of actual feces and let's talk about it.
Well, and to your point, that was what he was known for by most of the mainstream people. But like you said, he's actually like a really thoughtful, super smart guy, beyond just being like the dirty jobs dude and like a narrator. Like that was what I first discovered from that podcast. Is like, man, this guy can really write. He's a really good storyteller. He's super just smart in general.
Well, his background is opera singer.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, he's a former opera singer. I don't know how he transitioned into following around a plumber, but
I have heard his story. I can't remember what it was, but I know I heard his story before, and it was on another podcast, but the way he got into showbiz was kind of like a lot of people did back in the day. And because do you know Andrew Zimmern from Bizarre Foods?
Yeah.
Guy eats all the grossest stuff in the whole world.
Oh yeah.
This seems to be like a similar thing with a lot of like TV stars who are in their like 50s or like late 40s, 50s now, where they just like interned or just like say, hey, I'll do whatever you want at a local TV station, essentially. and then they had some talent. They worked really hard, and suddenly like, hey, we need like a fill-in. You want to go on TV? And they're like, let's do it. And then they like made good on their chance, and then just get more opportunity. Because I'm pretty sure Mike Rowe was on QVC actually. I think he was working for QVC, and then he got on late night QVC, and then it just grew from there because he was good. Like he could just do his thing, and that was how Andrew Zimmern like got his first bit was filling in for someone who had canceled, and he got like 2 minutes on the air, which was like an eternity, he said. And then from there it just grew, and he started pitching ideas, and because he was already on TV and like doing a good job, people listened to his ideas, and then got a show, and then show takes off, and then there you go. That's how it kind of worked. I don't know if that's how it works today as much. Maybe it still does. I don't know, but that's how it worked 20 years ago for a lot of guys.
That's how it worked on this podcast.
And gals. We're stars now. Yeah.
I know. I can't keep up with all these emails for requests to come on shows and TV spots. It's just people, please.
I know. We're gonna get there and figure out what this show is, what it is. Well, when baseball comes back, I think this is gonna really take a nice turn. I think everyone's struggling for content. We don't, because we're just hilarious, but
we really don't struggle for that much content, as much as I'm sitting up at 6:30 in the morning browsing Twitter, wondering what the hell we're going to talk about. Mike Rowe.
Well, and that's part of the reason for my other podcast is I don't get as many YouTube videos out as I want to, because I try to produce them and make them decent quality rather than me just talking to the camera. And so with the podcast content, the short stuff, I was like, I'm not going to video it. I'm just going to sit down at my mic, bang it out, quickly edit it. I already pre-recorded like my intro, exit, my music, my transition bits. I'm like, this is something I can do consistently and easily and quickly and still have it be good quality without like overcomplicating it and me trying to like make it a big thing. And because like I have my whole podcast set up, I'm better at broadcasting. So just that was sort of why I made the decision to start those two podcasts, which are just really easy for me to just like, boom, do it, give out good content to people, and be on my way. I kind of just needed like a quick win kind of like thing. So that was part of the reason too. So
yeah, I did my first Facebook Live on recruiting, and it had a few hiccups. Like I had to do it from my phone, but the content is out there now, and it keeps getting more and more views, just mainly from, I'm sure, parents that I have, or
it's the headband.
I wore a hat.
Is this going to be for forever? I mean, let's talk.
I'm getting a haircut. I'm getting a haircut today. So
your hair's not that long.
Dan, this is like, people tune in to see like this mug. You got to give them you got to give it to them at A+ every day. I'm not at A+.
Sure. Okay. Sorry. Back to Facebook Live.
No, just the Facebook Live. It's just, I was searching. I even texted you like, how do we Zoom? Because I mean, anybody watching, the brains behind this media is not me. It's Dan. So I was trying to figure out how to broadcast to a bunch of people that they could just watch it without having like join in, kind of how we're doing now. And Facebook Live just seemed like the easiest platform to do it on. And it was easy. Like I logged on, but I was trying to have someone join with me. That didn't go off so well. So I know Instagram Live is another way, like kids use it. It's just trying to find the best medium to have parents, kids, everybody to access it. And I was just rambling about recruiting, and I had some people typing in questions. I was kind of answering them as we went. But yeah, I mean, it's anything I put out there is not going to be, look really nice, like studio quality. It's kind of how your YouTube videos are. But at this point, I'm trying to get out content just so people can access it, easily. And that was Facebook Live seemed to work really well.
I mean, your content could. You just have to spend a little money. That's all. Just takes time.
Zach Clark is watching. Zach, hello. He says, I heard you're going to run for mayor of Chicago. True or false? Zach, 100% true. You know this.
Yeah, you would not have handled this situation well if you were mayor.
The
city would still be burning somehow. Even though all the buildings are made of concrete and steel, every building would have caught fire somehow.
I don't know if anybody handled this well in any city.
Mayor Bowser for sure handled it well. here in DC.
Is that DC?
For sure. Yeah, she for sure handled it
Was
well.
anything burned to the ground?
No, I mean, and the mayor can't control everything. Like the cops can't be everywhere at once. Like they
No, I
can't do
agree.
everything at
I
once. Like
agree.
she gave consistently clear messaging. She was constantly on TV giving good advice. She didn't hide from the media. She didn't lie about anything. As far as, I mean, she was very just giving people the answers she wanted to know. She stood up to Trump where she needed to. She advocated for people, for safety, for the city. I don't know what else you'd really want from a leader. I mean, I don't
I mean,
know a
DC is
lot
a
of the
weird
back.
one because you are in the backyard of like you're a city, but are you basically like
It's weird. Yeah.
it's like, are
You're
you
not a state. We don't have a
right,
governor.
right.
She's essentially the governor, is the mayor. And what was weird was, and I'm sure you're privy to this, but like Trump was calling in all these like National Guardsmen from like different states. And she's like, I don't want them here in my city. Like, and she was writing letters to them, go away. We don't need you. We don't need a military presence in our city.
Well,
And so she
it's
was
and that's the
battling
thing, right? Is
another
she
governor
doesn't
essentially.
I was thinking she doesn't have a higher up to like make those
No,
state decisions for her. So is it the president? Is it like do they have a senator? I don't think they have senators, right? DC. Like they don't have two senators that
no,
represent them.
that's why on the license plates in DC it says taxation without representation. We don't have congressmen.
Right. So
There's
like
no
it so
seats for it.
in Chicago I I'm critical of the mayor, but it's more so like I don't expect her to control everything going on in the city. Like we live in a big city. I live in the third largest city in this country. It's very expansive, not only in mileage and space, but in people. So she hasn't been at the forefront of like communication. I feel like she's been critical, off the cuff critical. I feel like her response is like she got into it with an alderman that they clearly have a history. But at one of the council meetings, this alderman brought up the fact that like our neighborhoods are getting destroyed. Like we need help. We need this. And she basically brushed over his question, caused a lot of internal unrest. Like words were exchanged on the floor of City Hall. So Chicago's a whole different story. But yes, Zach, I will be running, and I feel like after the last 6 months in Chicago, I think we'll have a new mayor regardless in 2023. So it might be Mayor Stevens. This podcast could have a whole different name. Still will be going though.
Well, I mean, the thing with Bowser, which was different, is that, I mean, imagine, obviously there's a dynamic between mayor and governor, right? So there's de Blasio in New York, and then there's Cuomo. So
Right.
Blasio can do some things and Cuomo can override him on other things. That's essentially how it's been in DC, where Bowser controls the city, but yet Trump has influence because the White House is in DC. So
Right.
that's where it's been confusing. But I mean, the thing with being a governor or the mayor is you have to make decisions and it has to be delegated to people. And so when you talk about like our neighborhood's on fire, the governor or the mayor makes decisions, but ultimately it gets delegated to the police. And like, did the police chief take care of it? At some point, sure, at the top, you're responsible for everything. But at the same time, it's all delegated and you have to trust people to do their job as well.
Does
And
DC
so there can
have
be major failings in the chain downward, you know?
does DC have like Chicago has aldermen, so there's 50
Uh-huh.
wards, 50
Yeah.
sections. Does DC have that?
Yeah, there's 8 wards. I think that's like a much more prominent form of governance because there's just the mayor. And then I don't know I know there's councilmen below that. I think those are like the main two structures. Whereas there's probably more structure in other cities where there's a governor and other stuff. I don't know. I don't know all the details of that, but yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, it's hard to know. I mean, and people are like talking about New York. They're like showing, images of, looters just undeterred, like no cops around. It's like the idea that the cops don't care. I just think at some point, like, how big is New York? Can they be everywhere at once?
no,
Are there enough police to be everywhere? It's just not realistic. I don't know.
no, it's not. I mean,
And
that's a situation where you have to, like, you're not calling in the National Guard because you want to put the people under some kind of military control. It's like the police just need help. Like they need help. There's not enough people. Pick one. You have not enough help, and people are mad that their personal property might get destroyed. and then you have too much help and it feels like you're under military control. So I mean, I don't know if there's not a perfect solution. Obviously,
it's complex.
Nothing is normal about what's happening in the last 3 months. There's been nothing normal about this. So I don't know. Well, I mean, every decision is going to be Monday morning quarterbacked, but
and with because there was I saw some of this on Twitter. People were like, oh yeah, like some cops saw some looting and they just like kept going. It's like, I saw one video on Twitter of someone taking it from like their 8th story balcony, and there's people downstairs on the ground floor just going in and out of buildings, just like 50 people on the ground just looting and just doing all of this crazy stuff. And it's like, all right, if you're a cop and you pull into that road and it's you and your other buddy in that cop car, do you get murdered if you go try to like stop that looting? Just 2 of you against 50 people, a huge mob? Like I don't know police protocol by any means, but I assume that they're like, hey guys, like there's a looting, there's a lot of people. What do I do? It's like, hey, we can't give you any backup. Okay, well, what should I do? Well, let it go. There's definitely a point where, I mean, becomes a potentially deadly situation for the cop, maybe, where he could just be beaten senseless trying to protect a building from property damage because he doesn't have any backup and it's only just one of them or 2 of them. That might be a situation where their higher ups be like, hey, you just got to let it go. Like go somewhere where you can actually, be on a 2-to-1 or 1-to-1 kind of fight and actually do something.
Especially now where your cops are under heightened microscope about everything they're doing. There's video cameras all over them. I mean, not that they're going to do anything bad, but if I can only imagine if it was, like you said, if there's 10 people and I'm the only cop there, like I'm probably going to draw my gun and just out of safety. And that's probably not the right
situation to be in.
It's probably not the right thing to do, to just draw your firearm on a group of people, whether they're being, protesting or they're rioting or whatever. Like you feel like you're in danger when there's 10 people that clearly are out because they do not like you, or people that wear your uniform or whatever.
Yeah. So it's just complicated. Like you hear reports like that, like, oh, the cops aren't doing their job. Like it's just complicated. You can't be everywhere at once. There's clearly cops that have done a lot of bad things. There's clearly cops that really care, that are obviously they're still people. So I don't know. It's just the whole idea that the governors and then the police force can control everything in every city is just clearly not how it is. Just like we, the people, could take over the entire country at any time if we wanted. There's too many bodies not to.
We should.
Well, you have to make someone the mayor, but yeah, no. Well, at least put me in your cabinet so that I can help you make sensible decisions.
I would absolutely surround myself with different people, because as much as we argue on this, like I like to throw topics out, even if they're absurd, just to hear some different thoughts on them. Like aliens, like let's see, throw it at the wall, see what sticks. I want to hear different, because
why don't aliens have beards? Why don't aliens have beards?
Because they never have beards? They've evolved into hairless beings. Like they've evolved. You can't fly through space with the friction of body hair.
The friction of body hair. Wow. That's a quote right there. You can't fly through space with the friction of body hair. Gillette, the best a man can get.
Oh, shout out to our unofficial sponsor, Gillette Mach 3.
Wow. That's quotable.
See, how would you ever get that quote if we weren't just throwing things at the wall?
I mean, that's a special one right there for sure. That one's
you're welcome.
Yeah, I'm learning a lot. So we've got about 20 minutes left in our show today. We're going to wrap it about an hour. What's the latest on Major League Baseball?
There is no latest. It's gotten to the point, we're at June 9th.
It's a nightmare.
It's Major League Baseball has made themselves look terrible, and saving face isn't possible anymore. Like baseball's not even top of mind. Now we're talking about football getting started up. We're talking about the basketball playoffs. Like they did not take the lead and run with this. And there's blame on both sides. They just haven't done enough to show everybody like, hey, we're trying to, in a good faith effort, to make this work. They're arguing in public. There's no leadership on the players' side from the union. The owners never have enough leadership. Their leader is essentially the commissioner. And and it's a money. It's always, everyone assumes the owners are the bad guys, but the players have not done themselves any favors. So I don't even know what the latest proposal is. There's somewhere between 50 and 114 games, apparently.
I've got it, so we can go through it. You ready?
Please. Yes, please.
MLB's latest proposal, courtesy of Jeff Passan. So follow at Jeff Passan. He's a great source, works for writer for MLB. 76 games, or ESPN, sorry. 76 game season, which leaves 1.4 billion in potential compensation, which is 75% of the full prorated salary of 2 billion over 76 games. So they're basically saying to players, we don't want you to get your prorated salary, but 75% of your prorated salary.
Okay.
Up to 8 playoff teams per league, which is half of the field, which is very, I hate that.
Agreed.
No qualifying offer for 2020. Teams that lose free agents receive a draft pick, blah, blah, blah. And then spring training lasts 21 days. Season starts July 10th and September 27th. And there's a bonus pool of $50 million for postseason teams to split up. Players deemed high-risk individuals can opt out of the season and retain their salaries and service time. Players not deemed high risk would receive neither salary nor service if they opt out of the season. And so players just want their prorated salary. That's what they want.
Yeah, players want their prorated salary. The high risk thing is interesting because let me just relate it to guys getting like prescribed Adderall. Like there's a lot of professional baseball players that'll get Adderall that don't necessarily need Adderall. They'll just get it. Sorry to burst anybody's bubble out there that didn't know that or thought that everybody was kosher in professional baseball. But who's high risk? Like I just saw a report that asymptomatic people, apparently according to the World Health Organization, cannot transmit this coronavirus now. So
wait, say it again.
I saw a tweet that said asymptomatic individuals for coronavirus I'll look up the wording, but do not transmit this virus. So
that see's not
I'll
true,
look it up.
right?
I'll look it up, Dan. I'll look it up for you. But in any case, who's determining do the teams have special people who are employed by the owners to determine whether or not you are
doctors, special people, probably
right?
doctors.
But you're gonna side with who pays you, right? So like, does the union get a doctor and the team get a doctor to decide? Because you're gonna find doctors that'll agree with you regardless.
Yeah.
So I'm just talking out loud, obviously, about, I don't know what the details are going to be about that, but it still seems like a far way off. I mean, it just seems too far away for each other right now. So I don't know. We're a month away from that opening day, but at the same time, spring training needs to start now.
Yeah, it would be cool to have baseball back, but I don't know. It doesn't seem likely at this point. The players do not want to do it. The players have, what did Sean Doolittle tweet? There's social unrest in our country. And Sean Doolittle is one of the spokes. He's like one of the higher ups in the MLBPA. He's obviously an active pitcher for the Nationals. We've been staying ready. We proposed 114 games, blah, 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 blah. It's frustrating to have a public labor dispute when there's so much hardship. And so, yeah, I don't know.
Here's the quote, Dan. Asymptomatic spread of coronavirus is very rare, says the World Health Organization. This is a CNBC.
Since when do you trust them? I thought you said they were.
I don't trust them, but they're mainstream.
You go back and forth here. Okay.
I don't trust them.
Wait, so are you saying that mainstream is good now? Let's mark this moment in history.
Are you saying that
you? Is a credible source, Robert?
I'm saying that the source is out there. So I'm on board that was true beforehand.
So if it's mainstream and you like it and you agree with it, then it's good. Then it's good information.
No,
if it's mainstream and you don't like it, then it's bad information. Is that right?
No.
Help me here.
If it's proposed, the World Health Organization is looked upon as a leader in this. So if they're saying it, the majority of the public takes that as fact. Whether or not I believe it's fact or not, that's irrelevant. So my whole point
I'm
is,
asymptomatic. I'm available to come cough in your mouth anytime you'd like.
I
can spit
regardless.
I can spit in a cup and mail it to you. I'm asymptomatic.
Right. So you have a very rare possibility of spreading it if you have the coronavirus. Have you been tested for coronavirus?
No.
I heard the test is very unpleasant.
Oh, I've heard that too. It goes really far up into your brain.
Yeah, my wife
cavity.
my wife had to get one. Jenny had to get one because she had to go to before you can go to the doctor, you have to get coronavirus tested. So she had to go get one. It was she said she did not like it.
How fast did you get results back?
They post them within 72 hours.
There's walk-in testing today and Thursday, like down the street from me. I could go get it, but I don't feel compelled at the moment. I probably will at some point, but I went to the DC protest on Saturday, wore my mask, which...
Hey, good for you.
Yeah, walked through, observed, stayed around, listened for a little bit, and then walked back. But wearing a mask outside when it's hot, it was like 85 degrees, is very unpleasant. And the idea that kids are going to have to play their baseball seasons wearing masks is absurd. It's a very, very silly idea.
Yeah, the only tournaments... So we actually start up tomorrow in Illinois. One stadium is open in Joliet. Shout out to Corey Herbert. He runs that stadium, and the mayor of Joliet.
Hey, Corey. Shout out to you, Corey.
Hey, Dan. I can't help that you don't recognize people when they need to be recognized. So Joliet's opening. Only one professional stadium. They're playing youth travel games there. A lot of protocols, obviously. But what were we talking about? See, I don't know.
You're talking about masks, wearing masks in summer baseball when it's 96 degrees out and you run the bases. Right. Like, give me a break.
So masks are not required up there. Baseball started Memorial Day in Wisconsin, and from the teams from Illinois that went, they were wearing masks. Wisconsin teams were not. Illinois teams were, and the coaches for the Illinois teams said it was just like their kids were like red face. You could just see it red faced. It wasn't even that hot out Memorial Day weekend in the Midwest, but really red faced, like trying to keep you almost had to have more people by the dugout, just keeping an eye on the kids. Like there's no way to cool yourself. Like your face was, their noses were covered. Like even when I go into a store, I won't I'll just put it around my mouth. I'll breathe out my nose, which is probably not the way to wear a mask, but whatever. They said it was just impossible to keep the kids like an eye on all the kids, which is part of the thing too. You're only supposed to have a certain amount of people by the dugout. So it's more dangerous. You're just making it more dangerous as opposed to just letting the kids in open air. Let them breathe. Let the kids breathe.
Yeah, it just doesn't. It's not realistic. It's just you're gonna have kids passing out for sure when it's hot. For sure, they're gonna be just passing out in the field, and someone's gonna die probably from it. It's not gonna be good. I can't imagine that's gonna be a good scenario. Well, and Amanda Smith, who was on our show last Friday, was talking about how there's a major tournament in Colorado for softball, and they're not letting kids steal because it's a high contact play.
So it's stupid.
Like, just don't play then. You let's not change the game and make it ridiculous. And the mask thing, come on. You're going to be around your teammates so much, like you're really not going to spread it if you have it. We just need to be okay with the implications of it or not. It just doesn't make sense to me.
It's okay. Again, like we've said it's okay if you're not okay with it, but
yeah,
like we can't have 10 kids whose families are okay with them playing with no masks cater to the one or two families that are nervous about it. If you're nervous, then you can't be out there.
Well, we get plexiglass shields for like the first baseman, so then you can't breathe on them as you're running by first base.
They should have to wear the welder's masks, like a clear welder's mask, because then kids wouldn't even be afraid of ground balls. You just keep your face down and boom. I might have a new training tool right now. That could be a new training tool for kids.
Well, actually, if you didn't get a really well-made face mask and it shattered on a ground ball, which cheap plexiglass could definitely do, you could lose your eyesight, be really messed up by it.
You have to get
you'd have to get like Oakley. Like Oakley actually, for as expensive as their sunglasses are, which they're not really that expensive anymore. There's so many competitors in the same price range, but Oakley sunglasses are actually really well tested to be like very strong ballistically. Like if you take I mean, there was a story about Miguel Cabrera took like a bad hop to his eyeball and had his Oakleys on, and those lenses pretty much won't shatter with some like less than like a bullet, pretty much. Like they're very like well made polycarbonate.
Well, it's
And they
something
said
like
if he wasn't,
right?
yeah,
Something.
well, but polycarbonate, like anything else, comes in different flavors essentially. Like you can get polycarbonate that'll shatter, or plexiglass, whatever you call it. But anyway, they said it saved his eyesight because he took this like hard like line drive bad hop like right to his eye, and without wearing his Oakleys, which the frames broke, but the lens like really spread out a lot of the force, that probably saved his eyesight, they said. And so if you, not that this is a real thing that's going to happen, but if you had a whole team with like cheap big flat plastic face masks on, and you did take one to your face and that polycarbonate shattered, you could have plastic shards in your eyes and potentially like be really severely injured. You have to make sure those things were really like shatterproof and legit, which that's
Well,
honestly not a bad idea, except
hey,
you'd be breathing heavy into it. It'd be foggy as all get out. So it'd still be a mess. Still be a mess.
A training tool. Like Bob's face mask training tool. Take the fear out of ground balls. It's like wearing a cup.
We need the deep sea scuba suits, those huge copper things with like the metal grate, because they run around just like fall over. They're like 40 pounds on their head. That's what you have to have. I mean, obviously.
Then you're yelling at the kid. It just drowns out all the actual teaching. The kid can't hear a word you're saying, but he won't get hit in the face.
So do we want to cover this topic that we're going to talk about when coaches lie to you?
No,
we're a little bit on a deadline today, but we've had some good talk here. Let's do it for Friday, because it is an interesting topic. I mean, we've both been lied to, or coaches just want to like sugarcoat the truth for you, and they're like, "Hey, we're letting you go, and this is the reason." It's like, no, I know that's not true. No, you could just like be a man and tell me the real reason. Like, I know it, but
we're not friends. Like, you're the organization. I'm the employee. Just tell me what's up.
Yeah. So, Robert,
Daniel,
have you gotten any new summer foods now that it's pretty much officially summer? It's like 80 degrees pretty consistently here in DC. It's probably only like 40 there in Chicago, but it's like watermelon season now.
It's been hot in Chicago. Like, I've got quite the farmer's tan going. The back of my neck is typical midsummer baseball neck, where you've got the ultra tan neck, and then when you take your shirt off, you look ridiculous. Summer, it's iced coffee season. I'm drinking warm coffee today, but it's been iced coffee season for
the chilled milk. Week. Iced coffee with chilled milk.
No, with room temperature milk. Almond milk in your coffee, or oat milk if you have not tried it before. Oat milk. Put your milk or water in your old oats, drain it, put it in your coffee. Delicious.
Are you bringing this up to agitate me? Do you know my stance on oat milk?
Yes, I do. That's why I'm talking about it.
Oat milk is the Malort of the milk world. It is.
Shout out to Malort.
Literal trash dumpster water. Oat milk is disgusting.
I like oat milk. I like oat milk. What's your favorite alternative milk?
I don't drink alternative milks. I don't drink regular milk very much. I put creamer in my coffee because. So remember, I was talking about the quality of my coffee. I like cheap drip coffee.
Yeah, you like.
Well, after a while, I was like, hey, maybe I shouldn't be like drinking coffee with creamer every morning. Not super healthy. And then I started trying to drink some black, and I was like, this is gross. Not great. So the Folgers that I've bought is probably not super drinkable without some creamer in it. But anyway, where was I going with that? What did you just ask me?
You've got your alternative milk. You have no alternative milk. Walnut milk, almond milk.
I don't drink milk. I'm a grown man. I don't need to drink milk like a baby.
But if you had to, you need an alternative milk. You don't drink 2%. That stuff is just, it's terrible for you. We've talked about this.
That's a nonsensical question. You don't need to drink milk at any point. There's never a need to drink milk.
I put milk in my coffee, and it's almond milk. or in my lattes.
Which doesn't. I've tried that. It does not enhance your. It just like you might as well leave it black. Almond milk in coffee is gross. It doesn't do anything.
No. See, this is why you're wrong all the time, Dan. You don't know good coffee. You don't know milk. There's so many holes in your wide range of knowledge. That's why I'm here to let you know. Milk, almond milk, great in coffee for your cappuccinos, your lattes, you people out there. Oat milk. Look, I can write a book. I can write a book on this. So I'm an iced coffee summer guy. What's your, other than watermelon? But you've got some weird obsession with watermelon.
I'm not an obsession. It's just great. Watermelon's great. If you don't like watermelon, what
I love watermelon.
kind of person are you?
I love watermelon. But watermelon's so inconvenient. Like the size and weight of watermelon. Like you need your own cart.
I will agree with you there because it has been a challenge. I have to like really plan my day out to go to the grocery store and hand carry a watermelon back because my closest grocery store is within like a 12-minute walk. So I do have to plan it out. I got to have my reusable bag. I have to have my little like carry handles, which because you wouldn't think about this, but actually the little grocery bags are fine. The bigger grocery bags are the reusable ones. If you're carrying them for 20 minutes and they're like actually kind of full, they like really hurt your hands. They like really kind of slice into them. I have these like carry handles that are pretty sweet actually.
No, you need like an old lady pull cart that from the walking around the neighborhood. You know what I'm talking about?
A buggy. They call them buggies. No.
Like a little red wagon.
Nah, I like carrying them. It's good exercise, number one. Like it actually is. I mean, because you can only have like probably 30 pounds in a reusable. No, you could probably have more than that. But I've had a pretty heavy grocery carry from a Costco trip that I made. It's actually really heavy, but I don't know. Watermelons are inconvenient. I will grant you that. But
is that that's your only summer? What are you like? Are you like a soft serve cone guy?
I do enjoy a good soft serve cone. Yeah. No, I mean, there's so much good fruit and vegetable out in the summer, but this is like prime fruit time. Blueberries are cheap and they're amazing right now. Pretty much a lot of the berries are. Peaches in the end of the summer, which right now I got some peaches the other day and they were trash, which peaches are trash most of the year. But
peaches are good for 3 weeks. 3 weeks.
That's accurate. Cherries are in season, which cherries are great. There's a lot of good stuff at summertime. So yeah, I don't know. I need to get a package of hot dogs, make it feel like the ballpark. Go to my rooftop grill.
Some Vienna beef. I'll ship some out to you.
I can probably find them. I don't know.
Well, yeah, let's save the coaches line for Friday. Friday, I've lined up a guest for us.
Who's that?
Charles Bolden, the new head coach of the University of Eau Claire.
Okay, very cool.
He's got an interesting backstory. I've known Charles for a while, so we're gonna bring him on, talk some baseball. You know, he's a newly crowned head coach, newly hired head coach, so it'll be good. Be good discussion, kind of see how he talks to players that he inherited, as well as trying to recruit new players. You know, being honest with them and everything like that. So I think it'd be good to get his perspective on how he treats those kids that he basically was not forced upon, but kids that he didn't end up recruiting himself.
Okay. That sounds good. What are you going to send our listeners off with today? It's 9:59. We're going to end exactly at 10 o'clock. What do you think?
I think shout out to our unofficial sponsor, Jepson's Malort. We'll be sending it to all our guests via FedEx, unofficial sponsor FedEx.
By we, Bobby.
By we, it's me. Yeah, this was good. We hammered it home in an hour. Dan had a time frame on me today. I could obviously keep going.
It's a busy week, seminars, all sorts of stuff. I have another podcast recording in an hour. One of my other shows, and yeah, just a lot going on right now. So the world is taking off. Bobbert.
The NASDAQ hit an all-time high today. I saw it. We're coming back strong.
The stock that I purchased recently is performing well.
One share of PepsiCo.
One share of Cuisinart. I'm like, people are going to be making smoothies at home. No, I didn't want to buy Cuisinart, but All right. Well, if you're out there on podcast land, thank you for joining us. Be sure to leave us a review. Do it right now on iTunes or Spotify. Say, Dan is the best. Bobby is okay. I really like the show.
Nobody would ever say that.
Whatever your review is, just leave it. We appreciate it. Be sure to share the show with a friend, and we will see you here next time. Robert, send us home.
See you here Friday with Charles Bolden. Bye, everybody.
Adios.